Zainab Chaudhry, you're with CAIR. How are Muslims reacting to the Paris attacks and to this overall discussion?
The vast majority of Muslims that we've heard of, they're condemning the attacks very strongly. We've heard condemnations not only from Muslim organizations in France, but all across the world, here in the United States, all across Europe, who've strongly spoken out against the attack on Charlie Hebdo. We strongly support the right of any publication, including Charlie Hebdo, to communicate their views or their ideologies or what have you, and to publish whichever cover they like. At the same time, our organization believes that we also reserve the right to challenge the message that's being portrayed in those publications.
Now here's the problem, and I understand the sensitivity issues. You wouldn't be putting the N-word across newspapers and putting that out there. Civil rights activists would be up in arms, as would the rest of the world. You wouldn't be doing old civil rights caricature cartoons from the 1930s. The difference is that people from those religious backgrounds aren't going out and killing people. Even though it's a minority, it's still something that many people are considered fascist examples of what the Muslim religion is becoming, hijacked by these fundamentalists. How do you respond to that? No, this is nothing we want to see, but people are being killed for this as opposed to other insults that we're making against other caricatures.
That's a very important question. And remember, there's 1.5 billion, 1.6 billion Muslims in the world. So these individuals who are responding in this way violently by going out and killing journalists or cartoonists for publishing these kind of cartoons, they represent a very tiny fringe minority of the vast array of Muslims the diverse population of Muslims that is present throughout the world. I think it's important to also understand in the Muslim world actually, there are several countries that have dictatorships in place that dictate how people should dress. Now it's important to differentiate between the rules of these countries and the laws of the land and the teachings of the religion. And I think one of the more important, broader debates that's important that we have is what exactly are the teachings of Islam, and how are the actions of the individuals who claim to follow this religion, how does that tie in with the religion itself? I think it's important to recognize that we live in a global village. Everybody is connected all across in all parts of the world. So world leaders have a very important role to play in making sure that, especially if we want to encourage pluralism in society, that we focus on tolerance and building bridges of mutual understanding. So the words of Pope Francis definitely have gone a long way in helping to build those bridges. Now, is it necessary to remove free speech from that debate? I don't think that that's necessary at all.
Now, we don't have you here to represent all of Islam, and you're not here to be beaten up by me. But when we talk about focus on tolerance, it seems the most intolerant people are the radical Islamics who are doing these acts. What do you say to that? Where are their parents? Why are they being taught this? For everyone out there, there's an assembly line of more little kids being brainwashed by so many of the schools that get the same idea. At what point do you practice tolerance among the minorities in your religion?
I would counteract that statement with the fact that the vast majority of Muslims are very tolerant. They are law-abiding citizens. They contribute to society. They want to improve the condition of society and their surroundings, their environment. Unfortunately, what we see in the media, what we see highlighted in all around us, is that extremist minority who is engaged in violent actions.
And they've hijacked your religion. You admit to that.
I would say that they've definitely used Islam or religion as a pawn to help advance their own ideologies, to help advance their own political agendas, to make sure that whatever their agendas are, they can advance them. And whether it's in Boko Haram in Nigeria, or whether it's in Yemen, or whether it's ISIS in Iraq and Syria, what we see is individuals or terrorist groups who are using religion to advance their own political ideologies. And there are so many different factors. I think that there's a broader discussion that needs to be had in terms of the different factors that come into play and why they're able to wield this kind of terror.
I mean, he's an enemy of the state in Iran right now.
You know, his story is very, it touches the heart. It's actually mind-boggling to see that he would have to endure those kind of circumstances for drawing a cartoon. I think, unfortunately, it comes back to that idea of separating the religion from what the dictators who are in power in these different countries, what their goals are. Now, we have to keep in mind within the Muslim world, a lot of these rulers, their agenda is to make sure that they can control what information is out there in the media. They want to, make sure that they exercise what's in their favor, and when we talk about free speech, I think what's also important to talk about the fact that it's important not to have a double standard. For example, in France, what we saw, there was an intolerance for cartoons that were deemed anti-Semitic, yet it was okay to promote cartoons that mocked the most religious figure in Islam. And that doesn't in any way justify the attack on Charlie Hebdo. But I think it opens up a wider debate on how can we make sure that we live in a society that is equally tolerant to all different faith groups. I think it's really important to differentiate between the religion of Islam and the people who follow it. The religion itself is one thing, but the people who follow it, Muslims, are not perfect. And we have probably more than our fair share of individuals who are Muslim, who claim to be Muslim, but yet they commit evil actions. And so whenever we turn on the news and we see something about events, a terrorist act that's happened in Nigeria or in France, the terrorist attack on Charlie Hebdo, it's important to understand that the religion of Islam does not condone these kind of actions. If we look at the example of Prophet Muhammad, he was an individual who he had a woman throw trash at him. He was insulted daily in his life. It was the first 13 years of his life. And he was the type of person who responded to that with patience. He never attacked anybody for attacking him. And this is not the example that the religion of Islam sets forward for people to respond to in this way. The fact that people are attacking a cartoon magazine because they disagree with their publication, it's absolutely not anything that's condoned in the religion of Islam.